what's up, my precious little peach blossoms? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and yes, I get it, peach blossoms aren't technically fruit, however they are traditional for the Chinese New Year, and they do contain the word peach in them, so I'm gonna count it. Regardless, today on #confirmed, we're gonna be digging into the latest Devstream to see what is coming up for Warframe in 2020. Now, I do have a little bit of a disclaimer. I kind of went through the Devstream several times to try to get a good, order of topics that I wanted to talk about, so just pardon me if the flow of this is a little bit choppy, because it's kind of all over the place like the Devstream was. So let's kick things off with some fast fire housekeeping. So first and foremost, we are going to be getting new Prex cards. They showed off the Ember one, the Vauban one, and the Avara one. They do all look really, really cool, and they say that they tie into the lore, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that I got any lore snippets from them last time, unless I'm totally missing out on something. They just look pretty. Moving on, we are going to have a new Nightwave coming up. They didn't say soon, but they do know that they have a storyline for it already going, which is going to be called the Glassmaker. And that one sounds really, really freaking interesting. They also said that they are going to be making more changes based on feedback. And one of the points of feedback that I wanted to make is, listen, if you're offering us the same shit all the time, like repeats from previous ones, and this one kind of applies more onto intermissions, so maybe not this one, but if you're gonna give us repeat rewards, can you please give us the option to opt into something that's a little bit more evergreen? So instead of the same weapon mods that you give out all the time, can we maybe get some formas or maybe some aura formas, something along those lines that would be a bit more useful for us. Next up, they wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up on the fact that they are going on a complete rework of Arcwings and the Arcwing abilities. Every single Arcwing that is currently out there is going to be converted into a modular Arcwing. So last time they talked about this, they said that they were going to kind of break them down and give you all of the components, so that way you're not really missing out on them. But they did want to make a point of creating all of these different parts so that when you first start out, you have the option of what you want to go ahead and put together. So instead of having to choose between, pre-built Arcwings or modular Arcwings, they're just breaking them all down and making them modular Arcwings. Now, the reason that I'm putting this here in housekeeping is, y'all enjoy your Arcwings while they last, because we don't know what they're going to be doing, because they did say that they are going to be touching the abilities as well, but they did say that they were going to be gearing it more towards railjack combat, so hopefully it'll make more sense in the sphere of playing Arcwing in railjack. Next up, they also went ahead and talked about the Tenebrious Ephemera. Now, of course, as you guys know, with the latest hotfix, they did remove it from the sentient anomalies that you find out in the Void Veil Proxima. And what they're actually going to be doing with that as early as next week is they're actually going to give you tokens every single time that you visit the anomaly. And then you'll actually be able to cash in all of those tokens to a vendor that knows a little something about sentience. Now, I'm really curious as to which vendor they're going to give this to, just as a little bit of a lore background, whether it's going to be a completely new vendor that we're going to get it from. Maybe it's going to come from one of the syndicates, or like I was begging for, maybe something about Darvo, maybe something about Maru, just to give them more of a background, because listen, I want to know who knows the tea about sentience, okay? Moving along from there, they talked about having aggressive lich changes. Now, this one was very interesting because, as you guys know, there's some issues with liches that are going down right now, and they went ahead and addressed a couple of those. First and foremost, they are going to, and keep in mind, take this with a grain of salt because this was said on the Devstream. This is kind of like them talking and thinking out loud, but they are in the process of it. So if it doesn't come out exactly like this, don't be mad at me. It's just what they said. So they are going to be removing, oh, here's a phone call that I'm going to mute, forced failures. So the whole thing with fighting Kuva liches is the fact that, whenever you fuck up the coding for your requiems, that it results in a forced failure. So they're actually going to be removing that and figuring out a better flow. What that better flow is, we have no idea, but it's something that they are working on. Next up, I guess it feels like they're going more into a token system because they are going to be trying to reduce the RNG hunt. So they're going to be creating an NPC system where you can end up banishing the current list you have if you just don't want to deal with them. But they're also going to be creating something where you can trade in a weapon that you don't want to get bait for a weapon that you do want. So if, let's say, you have a cum that you really just don't want, you want to get rid of that cum and you want to, get something else in, you'll be able to trade in your cum for a bait for the twin stubbas, because I don't have the twin stubbas yet. So you'll be able to use that on your next Kuvalich, so when that next Kuvalich is formed, they will have the twin stubbas instead of something random. They also wanted to address murmurs and kind of tweak that a little bit more to make it a little bit less grindy. So it does seem like they're going to be making some big moves for the liches, which I'm really, really glad about, because I hate it when they completely they released Kuvaliches, then they had Empyrean, and sometimes when DE gets into that mode, they forget all about liches and just focus on Empyrean. So they just focus on their newest thing and then they move along from that. So I'm glad they're at least going back to go ahead and make sure that liches is a more polished system. They said that it is something that is being currently worked on, so we may see it sooner than later. Now, moving on to the items that we have assets on, which I'm really excited, they actually wanted to go ahead and show off some concept art for the upcoming Empyrean launch, and they actually stated that this was something that is fairly far along. So first and foremost, they showed off 3 new Corpus troops, and this is basically just concept art for all of the things that we're going to be running into in Corpus Railjack. Yes, that is totally a thing that they're going to be making moves on. In fact, DE Steve mentioned during the Devstream that they're surprised that they didn't show off the new maps. He was like, Rebecca, yo, we got these maps, or are we not showing them off today? So apparently they're far enough along to show off the maps, and they've got the concept art for 3 new enemy types. Now, one of the interesting things that they did want to go ahead and make a point of is they felt like it was very space combat heavy. Not everybody was super fond of the fact that it's space combat heavy, so they're saying that for the Corpus maps, they're gonna attempt to swing things more into some space combat to get to the big capital ships. Then a lot of the combat from that point on is gonna happen on the capital ships. So basically, you're going to be using your Railjack to fight your way through troops, get to the capital ships. Y'all are going to get on the capital ships, and that's where the majority of the fighting is going to be. For the Warframe players out there that enjoy a little bit more of the Warframe-based combat as opposed to the Arcwing and Railjack-based combat. So that is something to look forward to. And one of the interesting things that they pointed out in addition to that is that within that landscape, they're actually going to be tossing a little bit of lore, which will be the history of the founding of the Corpus and how the leader of the Corpus had to make some very interesting morality decisions when he started everything off. So I'm really excited to see exactly how that is going to pan out, because to be honest with you, the Corpus are probably my favorite enemy faction, and I'm be real with you, I don't completely hate them as an enemy faction. They got some weird shit where, they put body parts on loan and shit and put your face and your stomach and you're a robot. It's weird, but, kind of charming at the same time. Maybe it's not so charming now that I say it out loud. Regardless, moving from the Corpus on over to the Grineer, they actually are going to also be revisiting a couple of the Grineer bosses. And I don't know, I thought Sprag and Venkra, they're these two, the pair of Corpus ladies. I thought that they were sisters, but I don't know. Maybe they were inferring a little bit something else when they were talking about them. But they are going to have a little bit of a once-over. And the only thing that they really mentioned about these two was the fact that it looks like there's going to be 2 new weapons attached to them, because they said that there's going to be new loot and more of a reason to go back. And it does look like there's going to be a gun and a melee weapon that you'll be able to pick up from them. Now, continuing along from the Grineer, we're going to move on to the Infested. I love how they touch on one of each of the different factions here. We have the Infested Mass, and this one I actually found to be very, very interesting, because one of the things that they always said is whenever they did an Infested map, it always tended to be about 80 to 90% whatever they're infesting. So like either a Corpus ship or a Grineer ship or whatever, Roken, that tends to be the basis of it. And then, you know, the last few are kind of like infested touches. However, what they're actually showing off in some of the art for their concepts is actually something that's grown to be overgrown with infestation. And in fact, what they showed as one of the main pieces of art was this big, like, crazy infested, almost like a mini planet. And they were saying that, like, your ship would be tiny amongst this crazy infested mass. And I'm thinking in my head for Railjack, that would be an amazing environment to fly around in. Just this twisted mangle of infestation routes spreading out into space. They even talked about it, like, when you got onto the, like, infested masses, that they would be like hellscapes. And I was like, ooh, I'm kind of really into the vibe that they're putting out with this whole infested scene. Plus, last year when we were taking a look at the whole, the emissary, you know, Nightwave thing, that really kind of gave me some chills to make me think that the infested were evolving beyond what they were. So I'm really excited to see what they end up doing with that. However, do keep in mind, this is just concept art. We may not see this for like another year, maybe even 2 years. Now, moving along from the infestation, we're going to come back to the Tendo because they did go ahead and show off something very small, something very simple, but they are planning on implementing clan emblems. So this is going to be, or sigils actually, clan emblems to become sigils on your chesticles. And they showed off a couple different finishes actually, one which was prismatic and one was gilded, so a metallic finish and more of an energy finish. So just in case you're really into your clan emblems, boom, you're going to be able to wear it as a sigil on your chesticles. Now, moving along, we do have an interesting thing that they showed off. And actually, it's funny because I was talking about it live on stream about how they didn't release certain augments that I was under NDA to talk about, but they showed off one of them today, so I can actually say something. It is a Baruch augment, and Baruch will actually be getting a full span of augments. The only one we can really talk about today, which is, of course, is the Enduring Lullaby, which is basically whenever you kill an enemy or perform a finisher on an enemy that is lulled, it'll actually spread the lull to surrounding enemies. So it's basically like refreshing that lull over and over again. They are going to be balancing the rest of his abilities because some of them are kind of juicy, and I'm really interested to see how that all plays out. But as of now, this is kind of like the most, you know, we've seen this before with Equinox's night one where she sleeps enemies, so it's going to be very similar to that. Moving along, we also have a little bit of an expansion for Fortuna. They said that they are planning on making some more moves to improve Fortuna. Hopefully that'll include primary kit guns and the third orb mother. I'd love to see that. But they're starting off small and teasing out a new MOA, which is actually going to be melee based. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, this MOA kind of looks dope. So I'm into the look of this, and I know that not everybody out there has made MOAs. In fact, I believe that on Steam, it's only like 2% of players that have actually created a MOA, which is kind of sad. But this one's going to be melee based. I wonder if it's going to be giving off some melee buffs. I always love new companion additions, and hopefully it'll be able to compete with the rest of the companions that we already have. So far, the MOAs really haven't been able to, but who knows? Maybe this will turn the tides on it. Now, last of the previews that they actually went ahead and showed off is the Avara Deluxe. I don't really have to say too much here, except for the fact that it's giving me Monster Hunter World vibes. Just like the Excalibur Deluxe gave me Monster Hunter World vibes, and guess what just came out on PC, and guess who has Monster Hunter World Iceborne now? Thank you, Modern. I was gifted it like during stream, and I was like, oh my god. So I'm thinking DE's trying to capitalize on this. I see what you're trying to do. However, I do have to say that the Avara Deluxe looks really good in my opinion. I know a lot of people were saying, it should be Equinox. Nah, it looks very Avara Hunter-esque. So I'm into it. I can't wait till it goes live. I think that Skyers did a great job on it, and a part of me is a little bit like, I like how Skyers designed Avara Prime, and also got to model Avara Deluxe. I don't know if he actually created the model for it, so if he's out there, let me know if you did the concept yourself, because I like it, sir. Now, let's go ahead and move into the last thing, which, well, is it the last thing? No, it's not the last thing. It's kind of the last, it's the second to last thing. This, of course, is going to be the next Warframe. And they showed this off on the last Devstream, where they actually gave out the animations of a frame that was playing around with some different grenades. And they explained the fact that she looked like she was going to be a new tech frame, kind of like a cousin to Vauban. And now that they've kind of like detailed what she's doing, I almost feel like she's an Overwatch character brought into Warframe. And this, of course, is ODALISK. Now, they only showed off the concept art here, but they did go ahead and bring in Pablo to explain the different abilities that ODALISK would have. So, keep in mind, it's early days for ODALISK. I don't even think that they've finished the model completely, but they do have kind of like a layout of what skills she's going to have. So first and foremost, her first skill is going to be Grenade Fan. There was a lot of firsts there, I'm sorry. But it's going to have two different modes. So you can tap it to launch a single grenade, and that is going to be a shrapnel cloud. It's going to deal damage to enemies and provide a little bit of CC for you. However, you'll be able to hold that ability down again to launch out, I believe it was 3 grenades. And it was weird how he explained it. I don't know if maybe it was just the wrong wording, but he said that they would launch these 3 grenades, which would turn into an energy trench, and you would get close to it and it would provide you a protective bubble. So I don't know what the hell that means. If it means it's basically just gonna be like Volt's shield that like drops out on the ground and then you can get behind it, or if it like launches out in front of you and then it creates a bubble shield. I don't know what the hell that means, if I'm gonna be honest. But what I heard were energy trenches and a protective bubble. So put the 2 and 2 together for that, all right? Next up, her second skill would be a BFG. And I'm gonna say it, big fucking gun. So basically what she's going to do is drop down a turret. He didn't want to call it a turret, but it's basically a turret that is gonna have a limited amount of shots. When he was describing it, he said bang, 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 bang. So sounds like 4 shots. It could be less, it could be more, but that's how he did it. And basically, you want to aim it at a group of enemies, and what it'll do is it'll shoot out a shot, which is a small AoE, and I believe that it gets more powerful per enemy hit. So if you like shoot out your shot, it hits an enemy, the next shot will do more damage and more damage and more damage. It would actually be cool if it like did more damage for every single enemy that it hits, and also be even better if the range grew as it was shooting more shots. But it's not supposed to be something that sits down and fights for you. It's supposed to be like, you got 4, I'm gonna drop you down here, take your 4 shots, I'm gonna go over there, drop down another one, take 4 more shots. It's supposed to be very, very quick. So that's definitely one of the things he wanted to stress there, especially because, you know, one of the things we don't want in Warframe is AFK gameplay. So I'm assuming that's why it's just on a very, very quick shot system. Next up, her third ability is what I like to consider just like a drop. You can it'll create a health orb, an ammo, and energy globe. So whatever it is that you're needing, it's kind of like extra resupplies for you and your allies. So I don't know if it's going to be one thing that you toggle through, or if it's going to be something that you'll just be able to drop down and it'll be like a resource that everybody can pick up. So that's one of the things. And her last ability is actually really, really interesting, which is called Temporal Anchor. AKA, you know, oh my god, I forgot her name. It's Kronos in Smite, but it's also Striker. Oh my god, her name's not Striker. The cute little lesbian girl in Overwatch. I can't get her name, but basically it's their rewind. So what she's going to do is going to drop down a temporal anchor. It'll remember how much health, how much shields, how much energy she has, and probably how much ammo or whatever she's got equipped. And basically, he's saying, drop that down, run around, spam everything, and then at the end of the duration, or maybe you'll be able to cancel it early, you'll rewind, Tracer! You'll rewind back to your spot, and you'll have whatever health, you know, energy shields that you had at that point in time. So during that temporal anchor activation, you're going to want to spam as much as possible. Now, to go along with that, she actually gets a really, really interesting passive, which is every 4th ability you cast will actually be boosted in power strength. Now, interestingly enough, what he had stated with this is not every one of her abilities is going to benefit for that. So it's really important that you pay attention to what abilities you're using in what order, because let's say you use your ultimate ability. Well, that doesn't, at least at this point in time, does not benefit from power strength. So there's really no bonus that's going to be coming from that. However, if you're doing it for her turrets or you're doing it for her grenades, that can actually be a big boost, specifically dealing more damage with her turret ability, BFG, or providing more defense when it comes to her bubble ability. So there are some bonuses there. So I'm really interested to see how she plays out, but legitimately, she just feels like all of the best parts of Overwatch characters like jammed into one. I mean, let's be real, they stole an interceptor from Anthem, so why not steal Overwatch gameplay and put it into Warframe too, right? That's just what we do. It's all iteration. It's not stealing, it's iteration. Anyway, the last thing that I wanted to go ahead and talk about is, and they stated that this is something that they do every year, but it's not necessarily something that they may act on quite yet. However, they've done some interesting changes with this in Railjack, but they talked about introducing a new armor system to Warframe. And right now what they have is they have that big sloped curve where it just kind of like exponentially grows, where it's absolutely ridiculous. But instead, they're going to be introducing an S-curve system. So what's going to happen is it starts up, it slopes upwards, and then it kind of plateaus at a certain level. It'll slowly go up from there, but it's not going to be as dramatic as we see it right now. They're comparing some armor values of like level 80s and level 100s, and I think even 150s, and a lot of those armor values had been sliced in half. Now, like they said, every year they start off things like this, like let's rework damage, let's rework the armor system. So who knows if it'll actually come into fruition. However, we have seen something like that with Railjack, where they literally sliced armor values in half, and it made Railjack playable for a lot of other people out there. It felt a lot less bullet spongy now, at least in my opinion. Is that a better move? Is that a worse move? I don't 100% know. We'll see as time goes on. But the one thing that they did say about that is if they introduce the S-curve system where they kind of plateau out with armor at a certain point, they're actually going to be introducing a damage buff. Now, of course, we already see damage buffs in T4 places, so places like Mott, and I'm 150% convinced that the Interception, I think it's Mithra, also has this out in the Void, where they have a 2 times damage buff. So that is something that I know was confirmed by D. Rebecca. There is a damage buff on Mott. She said that she would get back to me about any other nodes there, but she hasn't. I'm just saying, but she's busy. Regardless, I hope it is something that we end up seeing. It can make things really, really interesting and kind of shake up the game, especially when you're going into higher level play. Regardless, that's all of the notable things that were on this latest Devstream. Now I gotta go edit this video, and I'm really not excited for that. So I'm gonna leave it here. Leave all of your feelings down in the comments below. Specifically, let me know how you feel about the new Warframe. Does it sound good to you? Does it sound like a weird theme to me? I feel like it's a little strange. Also, in addition to that, tell me how you feel about the name of the next Nightwave and what it could possibly be. Because again, it's called Glassmaker. What the fuck is that? I don't know, but I always get really, really excited about all of the different Nightwave stories. So toss all of your feelings down in the comments below. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.